When it comes to studying business in college or university, no two degrees are exactly alike. Your college major is going to play a significant role in the types of opportunities you're able to find for internships while still in college, or for full-time positions shortly after college or university, and for the rest of your career later on in life. Certain degrees will differ a little bit from university to university, but in general there are a handful of business degrees that are great for not only educating you, but also preparing you and setting you up well for finding a full-time job in the workplace, and there are a few degrees that aren't so great. So this is going to be a tier list ranking the business majors out there and how good or bad they are at educating you and help you find a job. Before we get into it, please go ahead and like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Check out the links in the description down below if you want to support me on Patreon or get 2 free stocks for creating an account in Webull and depositing $100. And of course, always feel free to leave a comment or send me an email about any questions you might have about your own personal situation. So let's get into it. We're going to go ahead and start off with a few of the more popular ones. First, we're going to be talking about finance. A lot of people will consider this to be the coolest or maybe the most glamorous business degree out there, and in some ways it is. But in general, if you want to be working in any type of buy-side or sell-side investing activities, a finance degree is probably going to get you pretty well positioned to do that. In a lot of the business programs at some of the biggest universities, the finance program is the most popular. In some instances, only the students with the highest GPAs after their first or second years of undergrad are able to enroll in the finance major and take all the finance classes and investing classes in their third and fourth years of college or university. And once you're in this third and fourth year, there's going to be a lot of recruiting being done with some of the bigger banks and asset management firms in which your peers and your competition really are trying to land the best internships and jobs. So finance can be a little bit competitive in that sense. It's extremely marketable. You can earn a really good income right after college or even during your internships during the summers while still in college. And like most business degrees, it's not going to be as difficult as science or engineering during your university studies. Because the finance major is so well-rounded and has such a positive reputation in the business world, we're just going to go ahead right away and give that an S tier. Next is accounting, and even though I didn't major in accounting, I think it is the single most beneficial college major that you could pick to build a really solid knowledge foundation to be successful in a business career. Whether you're doing corporate finance or equity or fixed income research or something like investment banking, which typically would involve starting off with a finance degree, I think accounting can actually even be more beneficial than finance in this sense. And certainly if you want to actually be an accountant in all those fields, accounting probably has the most beneficial information to being an effective employee in the future. Now, it's not going to be as ideal as finance for getting into some of the top tier jobs in the business world just because, again, that finance major is so sought after by a lot of employers. But honestly, if you're really looking to learn the most that you can during your university years and specifically learn the most useful information that you can, I think accounting's the place to go. So it's a great option, but it's not as sexy as finance. It's an A tier. Third is a really popular one, but I don't think is actually all that beneficial to students who study it, and that's economics. Oddly enough, I think economics is one of the few business-related classes that is actually taught in high school. For whatever reason, much of personal finance and accounting and marketing is all ignored, but there still are economics classes, and so a lot of students who decide to be business students in university go, well, I liked economics in high school, maybe I'll choose this. And depending on the college or university you're at, the econ major might not actually even be a part of the business school. It could be a part of arts and letters or something else, and that's because a lot of the information is really theoretical. Because of the nature of that information, it's not super applicable to too many jobs out there in the business world. I don't know of any positions that say, yeah, we really need someone with an economics degree, and I also don't think studying economics is going to set you up well for a really good paying job early on or shortly after university. So this one's going to be lower than some people might expect. It's going to be a C tier. Now let's talk about marketing. Now this is a really cool one because in my opinion, marketing is basically the practice of widespread sales. So rather than selling to one business or individual, a marketing plan is how do we sell to hundreds or thousands or millions of businesses or individuals? So you need to know a lot about your product and your business, but also demographics and people to be successful at this, and marketing majors do teach a lot of that information. There are plenty of marketing jobs out there available. Now you should know that I think probably half of them are like social media marketing jobs nowadays, so be prepared to be writing tweets for a company if you really want to do like corporate marketing. Sure, there are other options out there, but social media marketing is becoming more and more popular. The last point I'll make here might be a good point or a bad point depending on how you look at it, and it's that it's probably one of the easiest business majors out there. There aren't too many that I've heard of really challenging marketing classes. People usually get really high grades in their marketing careers, and that results in a high GPA and an easy university study period. But if you really want to challenge yourself and learn as much as possible, I wouldn't go this route. It's still a good option though. It's going to be a B tier. Next is business administration, and I'm a little bit torn on this one because For some people, a business administration degree can be the most valuable thing that they ever get, and for other people, it could be a colossal waste of time. One positive point to this is that business administration is really general, so you can try to apply it to many different areas in the business world, but that can also be a con to business administration because if I'm a hiring manager at a company who works in a certain field in business, finance, accounting, whatever, and I see that someone only had a business administration degree, I say only because it's not concentrated. They didn't have a degree in the specific subsector that I work in, and it kind of tells me that they aren't really sure what they want to be doing, so hopefully they are going to interview really well because their resume probably doesn't look as strong. And I know it's really popular for people like me to tell college students en masse, hey, it's okay if you don't know what to do. You don't have to have your mind made up while you're in college or university. You still have time. I think that message has grown in popularity over the past handful of years because there are so many university students who are very anxious and unsure of what they want to do, and people want to try to relieve them of some of that pressure so that their mental health is in a better state. And I really appreciate that effort, but I just think what they're telling these university students is not that true. This is the real world, and the people who get the best jobs know what they wanted to have done throughout their whole university studies, and they focused in on those things during their college years. I'm not saying it's a bad thing to major in business administration, but it is more general, and so you're not going to be able to get really focused in on some of the top companies or top roles in a subsector should you choose a sector that you like later on. Business administration is useful. I'm going to give it a B tier here. It's not a bad thing, but it's not a great thing either. Next is management. I don't really like the idea of someone studying management in undergrad. It sounds a little bit to me like people who want to be police officers right after they turn 18. They really just want to be able to have authority and control over other people. Now, an MBA is totally different because if you've been working in the industry for 10 years and your company says, hey, we want to promote you to some sort of management role, you need to go back to school and get a master's in this so that you're as academically prepared as possible to manage large teams of people. That makes more sense to me than people just starting off in college and university in management when they don't exactly know what types of jobs they're going to have in the future. Now, managing people is an extremely valuable skill, and I do believe that those valuable skills are taught in many management programs at college and universities in the United States and globally. So it's good information. I'm just not sure that everyone who learns that information is going to end up applying it as a manager in their careers. As a side point, I really don't even know what type of job you would apply for with a management degree, which is kind of funny saying out loud because my personal degree was partly in management and partly in finance, but point is, it's not super applicable in the marketplace. I'm a little wishy-washy here, but I think we can't rank management as high as administration, so we're going to give it a C. Consulting as a major, I don't think is all that common out there, and maybe I'm wrong, but if you go to a college or university that offers consulting, definitely learn up on what the consulting industry is because a lot of people, especially the people that work in consulting, really enjoy it. And so if you have the option to get a degree specifically focused towards this industry, it might be something you really want to consider. People like the job consulting so much because you get to see a lot of different industries in the business world. You get to perform a lot of different types of roles. Maybe you're doing accounting, marketing, maybe you're doing corporate finance, many of the things we've already talked about in this video. A consultant basically gets hired by a business to give them an outside opinion on certain business decisions they might be making. Studying consulting can be really interesting too because it's just going to be a lot of cool case studies on different business decisions that companies have made in the past and which worked and which didn't. Consultants can also make a ton of money. I really like this one. If you have it available, you might want to check it out. It's like an A-tier major. Next up, we have entrepreneurship, which I personally feel like is kind of a dumb idea as a college major because I think it's really hard to learn the skills and abilities needed to be a successful entrepreneur in a formal academic education setting. I watch a lot of YouTube videos of people who own businesses or high-level managers or executives at businesses talking about being an entrepreneur, building a business, and I don't think any of them ever say that they studied entrepreneurship in college, and none of them have ever recommended it, at least from what I've heard. I really don't know what type of employer would be looking to hire someone with an entrepreneurship degree, because entrepreneurship to me just sounds like I want to do my own thing, I want to build my own business, which is a really cool concept, but not if you're trying to hire someone to come work for your company and work for you. It just doesn't make sense. This, as a college major, is a pretty low ranked. I'm going to give it a D. Now, sales is the more individually focused version of marketing that we already talked about earlier. Sales is how do you build relationships, how do you convince people of value, and how do you ultimately close deals on certain products. The skills taught in a sales major can be extremely valuable to a person going into a sales career. If you end up not going into a sales career, it's probably not going to be all that beneficial to you at all. Another cool thing about this, though, is that you can sell anything in any industry. So while you might major in business to do a sales degree, you might end up working in pharmaceuticals or industrials or or automotive or anything like that, selling either individual units or bulk units to businesses, companies, dealerships, whatever, you can end up making a lot of money and having a really cushy lifestyle in certain instances. So I like this one. It's applicable to real world use, and we're gonna give it a B. Human resources or HR, again, I'm a little bit torn on. Personally, I would think it's extremely lame. There are people out there who love it to death, and they just love working with people and trying to give people a good experience in the jobs that they work in. For that type of person, a human resources degree would be one of the best degrees on the planet. For me, it would be one of the most boring, so it kind of depends on who you are. I can't give it a really low score here just because I know it is cool for a lot of people and it's very marketable in the workplace, so we're gonna give that a B also. Last but not least on our list is supply chain or logistics. Now, this one is the most targeted out of any other business major that we've talked about so far. In a handful of the earlier majors, I said, yeah, you can do this, or you can do this, or you can do this with this degree. That is not the case with supply chain. I won't say you can only get a job doing this, but you're only going to get a job where you actually utilize the information you learned during your university studies if you get into a supply chain management position, and that's not all that common of a career. Don't get me wrong, there are hundreds and thousands of these jobs out there, but that's still probably the smallest total quantity of opportunities that any of these other degrees would get for you. If for whatever reason supply chain is something you know you really like, then this is an awesome degree to go for, because it's like, hey, this is exactly what I want to do. I'm going to study this very specific thing and I'm going to get a very specific type of job and make pretty good money in some cases. I'm a big fan of people in high school deciding early what they want to do for a career so that they don't waste any time in college, university, and supply chain and logistics is a good way to do that. I think the work could be cool. I'm not crazy about it myself, but this one will probably be another B tier. Let me know what you think on these rankings, if I'm way off or if I'm spot on. Of course, if you got to this point in the video, it means you watched the whole thing. I very much appreciate that. The YouTube algorithm loves the long watch times in terms of total minutes watched or just a percentage of the video. Like I mentioned earlier, if you can like this one and subscribe, both of those things really help me out and I appreciate them. So as always, thanks for watching.